All right, let's dive into the Diamond Sutra. This is, hands down, one of the most profound and honestly mind-bending texts in all of Eastern philosophy. Its name translates to the diamond cutter of transcendent wisdom, and that's a perfect description. The whole point is to give you a tool, a piece of wisdom so sharp it can literally cut through every single illusion you have about reality.
And this whole cosmic puzzle, it all kicks off with a really human, really direct question. One of the Buddha's most senior disciples asks him something we've all probably asked ourselves. When you're faced with the chaos of the world and your own thoughts, what do? How should we live? How do we get a handle on our own minds?
So, just picture this scene for a second. The Buddha is with his followers, everything is calm, and in this moment of peace, one of his students gets up to ask the one question that sparks this entire incredible teaching. And the student who asks Miao Sheng, he wasn't a beginner. He was known for his deep grasp of really complex ideas, like emptiness. But the Buddha's answer? It's not a simple to-do list. Not at all. Instead, what he gives is a series of powerful, looping paradoxes that are designed to completely shatter our basic assumptions about who we are and what reality even is. And that brings us to the Buddha's very first response. It's a seemingly impossible instruction, and it becomes the foundation for absolutely everything that follows. So here it is, the core paradox of the whole sutra. It sounds like a total contradiction, right? How can you dedicate your entire existence to liberating every single living being, but then, at the end of it all, realize that no one was actually liberated? What does that even mean? Well, the Buddha's point here is incredibly subtle. The mission itself, the goal of relieving suffering, that's beautiful and noble. The problem is in the concepts we use to think about it. The second you create a mental box labeled I, the person doing the saving, and another box labeled a being, the one who needs to be saved, you've already missed the point. You've created a false separation that doesn't really exist.
These are the illusions that the Diamond Sutra is designed to slice right through. The Buddha says that if a bodhisattva, and that's someone who is dedicated to liberating everyone else, clings to any of these fixed ideas of a separate self, then they aren't actually a bodhisattva at all. They're still caught in the very same trap they're trying to help others escape. So you see, you can't solve the problem using the same kind of thinking that created it in the first place. This is why the sutra introduces a totally new kind of logic, a specific tool designed to take these illusions apart, piece by piece.
And this formula is the master key that unlocks the entire text. You see it over and over again. Now, I know, at first glance, it looks like complete nonsense. But it's actually a brilliant little device for prying reality apart from the labels we stick on it. Let's break down how it works. So what this is really saying is that the name, the label perfect feature, is just a convenient shortcut. The reality itself is fluid, it's interconnected, it's not a solid thing. By understanding that a thing is not the fixed concept we call it, we can finally use the name correctly, without being fooled into thinking the label is the thing. In this kind of understanding, this wisdom that lets you cut through all the illusions, well, the sutra makes it very clear that this has a value far, far greater than any material wealth you could possibly imagine. Over and over again, the Buddha poses this question. He asks, which is greater? The merit you would gain from an act of unimaginable generosity, like filling countless worlds with jewels, or the merit from truly grasping just a single 4-line verse of this teaching? And the answer is always the same. It's not even a contest. The wisdom in this sutra is immeasurably, infinitely more valuable than any treasure. And here's why. Giving someone treasure, well, that helps them in a finite, temporary way. But understanding this wisdom, that's what gives rise to liberation itself. It's like having the source code for enlightenment, and that makes it infinitely more powerful than any object you could ever give. Okay, so if our ideas about ourself, about other people, about what has value, if all of that is just a set of temporary labels, then how are we supposed to look at the world around us? How should we actually live day to day? The sutra wraps up with one of the most famous verses in all of Buddhist literature. It's a final, beautiful, poetic instruction on how to hold our perception of reality. First, we should see the world as a star at dawn. You know how it looks so solid and bright in the dark? But as the sun of understanding starts to rise, you realize its light is just temporary. It's about to fade away completely. See it like a bubble in a stream. It forms, it catches the light beautifully, it seems like its own little separate thing for a second. and then pop. In an instant, it's gone, merged right back into the water it came from. See it as a flash of lightning, a sudden, brilliant, awesome event that lights up everything for a split second, and then it just vanishes back into the darkness as if it were never there. And as a flickering lamp. Its light seems steady, but really it's completely dependent on everything around it. The fuel, the wick, the air. It's unstable, it's conditional, and by its very nature, it just can't last. Think of it as a phantom or a magical illusion. It looks totally real and solid when you glance at it, but the moment you try to get close and really examine it, you find there's no actual substance there at all. And finally, view it all as a dream. While you're in the dream, it feels completely real. It's full of passion and fear and joy and consequences. But the moment you wake up, you realize the whole thing was just a projection of your own mind. And this is the final, brilliant twist. The Diamond Sutra never gives you a solid answer to grab onto, because of course, that would just be another illusion. Instead, it gives you this diamond-sharp tool to cut away everything you thought was real, leaving you with just this one final, profound question.